What if everything you've been taught about reality is fundamentally wrong? What if you're not just a passive observer of your life, but an active participant in creating it at the quantum level? I'm about to share something that will completely shift how you see yourself and your power in this world. This isn't just philosophy or wishful thinking. This is cutting-edge science that reveals the true nature of consciousness and reality. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your current methods of trying to change your life haven't been working, and more importantly, you'll discover the one shift that changes everything. But first, let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a marketing executive in London. On paper, her life looked successful, good job, nice apartment, active social life, but inside, she felt trapped in an endless loop. Every morning, she'd wake up with the same anxiety about money, despite having a decent salary. Every relationship followed the same pattern. Initial excitement, followed by fear of abandonment, ending in the very abandonment she feared most. She tried everything: therapy, meditation apps, vision boards, gratitude journals, positive affirmations. She read every self-help book she could find. For years, she was what you might call a professional seeker, but nothing stuck. The patterns remained. The same financial stress, the same relationship drama, the same sense of being stuck in quicksand. Sarah's breakthrough came during a particularly difficult period. She'd just ended another relationship and was facing an unexpected financial setback. Instead of immediately trying to fix everything, something inside her just stopped. She sat on her couch one evening and instead of planning, strategizing, or trying to figure it out, she simply observed. She watched her thoughts without believing them. She felt her emotions without being consumed by them. She looked at her life without the story she'd been telling herself about it. And in that space of pure observation, something shifted, not immediately in her external world, but in her relationship with it. She wasn't fighting her reality anymore, she was witnessing it. Within 6 months, Sarah's entire life transformed. Not because she did more, but because she observed differently. She got a promotion she hadn't even applied for. She met someone who appreciated her exactly as she was. Her financial stress dissolved as opportunities she'd never noticed before became visible. What happened to Sarah? She discovered what scientists call the observer effect. Let's dive into the science that explains Sarah's transformation, because understanding this will change everything for you too. In 1909, a physicist named Thomas Young conducted what's now known as the Double Slit Experiment. This experiment, repeated thousands of times with increasingly sophisticated equipment, revealed something that challenged everything we thought we knew about reality. Here's what happened. Scientists fired electrons, tiny particles, at a screen with 2 slits. Logic says each electron should go through one slit or the other, creating 2 bands on the detector screen behind it. But that's not what happened. When no one was observing which slit the electron went through, something extraordinary occurred. The electrons behaved like waves, going through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern, multiple bands on the screen, like ripples in water. But here's where it gets mind-bending. The moment scientists placed a detector to observe which slit each electron passed through, the wave pattern disappeared. Suddenly, the electrons behaved like particles again, going through one slit or the other, creating just 2 bands. The act of observation changed the outcome. Let me repeat that because it's crucial. The mere act of conscious observation altered the behavior of matter at its most fundamental level. But this isn't just happening in laboratories. This principle that consciousness interacts with and influences reality, and extends far beyond subatomic particles. Dr. Dean Radin, a consciousness researcher, has conducted experiments showing that human intention can influence random number generators. The Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Program ran for nearly 3 decades, documenting how human consciousness can affect physical systems. Even more fascinating, studies in hospitals have shown that when patients are being observed with genuine care and attention, their healing accelerates. The quality of observation literally affects biological processes. What does this mean for your life? It means you're not a passive recipient of whatever life throws at you. You're an active participant in the quantum field that's constantly creating your reality. Every thought you think with emotion, every belief you hold with certainty, every way you habitually perceive your circumstances. These are acts of observation that influence what becomes real in your experience. Now, let's get practical. How exactly does this work in your day-to-day life? Your consciousness operates like a radio transmitter and receiver. You're constantly broadcasting signals into what quantum physicists call the field, an invisible web of energy and information that connects all things. But here's what most people miss. You're not broadcasting your desires or your goals. You're broadcasting your dominant emotional states, your unconscious beliefs, and most importantly, the frequency from which you observe your life. Think about money for a moment. When you check your bank account, what happens in your body? If anxiety arises, if there's a tightening in your chest or stomach, if thoughts like, "there's never enough," automatically appear, you're not just observing your financial situation. You're observing it through the lens of scarcity. That observation, felt consistently over time, becomes a signal that the field responds to with experiences that match that frequency. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because this is simply how consciousness and reality interface. The same principle applies to relationships. If past experiences have created a pattern where you observe new relationships through the filter of "people always leave" or "I'm not worthy of love," you're not seeing what's actually happening. You're projecting past patterns onto present situations. Your nervous system, shaped by past experiences, scans for evidence to confirm what it expects to find. And what you consistently look for, you tend to find. What you find becomes your reality. What becomes your reality reinforces your observations. And the cycle continues. This is why positive thinking alone often fails. It's not enough to think different thoughts if you're still observing from the same emotional frequency. The field responds to the vibrational quality of your attention, not just the content of your thoughts. But here's the empowering truth. Once you understand this mechanism, you can begin to work with it consciously. Let me share 3 real-life examples of how changing observation patterns transforms reality. Case 1. The chronic worrier. Meet James, a software developer who lived in constant anxiety about his job security. Despite being skilled and well-regarded, he spent hours each day imagining worst-case scenarios. He observed his career through the lens of impending disaster. The breakthrough came when James learned to observe his worry patterns without being consumed by them. Instead of trying to stop worrying, he began witnessing the worry with curiosity. There's the mind creating disaster movies again, he'd note, almost with amusement. This shift from being the worrier to observing the worry created space. In that space, James began to notice opportunities he'd previously missed because he was too focused on threats. Within a year, he'd been promoted twice and started a successful side business. Case 2. The serial dater. Emma had been through 17 relationships in 5 years. Each one followed the same pattern: intense connection, followed by her partner becoming distant or unavailable. She was convinced she was cursed in love. The pattern broke when Emma realized she was observing every relationship through the lens of anticipated abandonment. Her nervous system was so primed to detect signs of withdrawal that she was actually creating the very behavior. She feared through her subtle reactions and energy. When Emma learned to observe relationships from presence rather than past trauma, everything changed. She stopped scanning for problems and started appreciating what was actually happening. Her next relationship led to marriage. Case 3. The struggling entrepreneur. David launched business after business, all with limited success. He was talented, hardworking, and knowledgeable, but he consistently observed his ventures through the lens of, "Nothing ever works for me." When David shifted to observing his businesses as experiments rather than life or death scenarios, his relationship with both success and failure transformed. He became more creative, took better risks, and attracted partners and opportunities that had been invisible before. His next venture became a multi-million-dollar success. Notice the pattern. In each case, the external circumstances weren't the real issue. The issue was the frequency from which they were observing their experiences. Let's go deeper into why emotional states are so crucial to the observer effect. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research using brain imaging technology shows that when people change their emotional state while holding the same thought, different neural networks activate. The brain literally processes the same information differently based on the emotional context. More fascinating still, the Heart Math Institute has documented that the heart generates an electromagnetic field 60 times greater than the brain. When you're in states of appreciation, love, or compassion, this field becomes coherent and organized. This coherent field influences not only your own biology but can be measured, affecting the people around you. What this means is that your emotional state, while observing something, literally changes the information you can perceive and the responses you attract from your environment. When you observe your life from fear, your perception narrows. You see threats, limitations, and problems. Your body releases stress hormones that actually impair creative problem-solving and pattern recognition. But when you observe from states of calm presence, curiosity, or love, your perception expands. You notice possibilities, connections, and resources that were always there but invisible to you before. This isn't just metaphysical theory. This is measurable neuroscience and physics. Your emotional state, while observing, literally determines which version of reality becomes available to your awareness. Now let's get into the practical application. I'm going to teach you the foundational practice that Sarah, James, Emma, and David all used to transform their reality. Find a comfortable position. You can do this sitting or lying down. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths, allowing each exhale to release any tension you're holding. Place one hand on your heart and one on your solar plexus. These are your centers of emotional intelligence and personal power. Now, I want you to bring to mind a situation in your life that feels challenging or stuck. It might be related to money, relationships, health, or career. Just let it arise naturally without forcing anything. As this situation comes into your awareness, notice what happens in your body. Do you feel tension, anxiety, frustration, sadness? Don't try to change or fix these feelings. Just observe them. Now, here's the key shift. Instead of being the person who is anxious about this situation, become the consciousness that is witnessing the anxiety. You're not trying to get rid of the feeling. You're changing your relationship to it. Say to yourself, I notice anxiety is present. I am not the anxiety. I am the awareness that observes it. Feel the difference? When you become the witness, you create space between you and the emotion. In that space, the emotion can move and transform naturally. Now, from this witness state, look at your challenging situation again. How does it appear different? When observed from this spacious awareness, rather than from anxiety or frustration, you might notice that solutions or perspectives that weren't visible before begin to emerge. This is because you've shifted from reactive observation to conscious observation. Practice this throughout your day. When you notice yourself caught in emotional reactions, pause and ask, who is observing this? Can I witness this experience from a more spacious place? Here's a more advanced practice that can create dramatic shifts in your reality experience. This technique is based on the quantum principle that multiple timelines exist simultaneously, as potential, until consciousness collapses them into experience through observation. Get comfortable and close your eyes. Take several deep breaths, and allow yourself to settle into that witness state we just practiced. Now, imagine that there are infinite versions of your life existing as potential right now. In one timeline, your current challenge is resolved beautifully. In another, you're living exactly as you desire. In another, you're experiencing perfect health, abundant relationships, financial freedom, whatever matters most to you. These aren't fantasies. According to quantum physics, these are actual probability states that exist in the field of potential. Here's what you're going to do. Choose one of these positive timelines and step into it mentally and emotionally. Don't just visualize it. Actually feel what it would be like to be living that reality right now. How would you feel in your body if that problem was already solved? How would you move through your day? What kind of thoughts would naturally arise? What would your energy feel like? Spend several minutes really inhabiting this timeline. Let your nervous system experience it as real. Now, here's the crucial part. As you return to your current circumstances, maintain the emotional frequency of that positive timeline. You're not denying what currently exists, but you're observing it from the energy state of where you're going rather than where you've been. This practice literally begins to collapse the positive timeline into your physical experience, not through magic, but through the quantum mechanical principle. That observation with emotional certainty influences what crystallizes into form. The key is consistency. The more often you observe your current reality from the frequency of your desired timeline, the more rapidly that timeline begins to manifest in your physical experience. Let me share some specific patterns I've observed in how the field responds to different types of observation. Pattern 1. The effort paradox. The harder you try to force something to happen, the more resistance you create. The field responds to ease and flow, not force and struggle. When you observe your desires from desperation or urgency, you're actually pushing them away energetically. Pattern 2. The certainty principle. The field responds most powerfully to certainty, not hope. When you observe something as already done, already resolved, already on its way, you create a much stronger signal than when you observe from hoping or wishing it might happen. Pattern 3. The present moment gateway. The field only responds to observation that happens now. When you observe from past hurts or future worries, you're not actually in relationship with the creative field of the present moment where all transformation occurs. Pattern 4. The gratitude amplifier. Observing your life through appreciation literally amplifies your creative power. Gratitude is one of the highest frequency states, and it makes you magnetic to positive experiences. But it has to be genuine feeling, not just mental acknowledgement. Pattern 5. The identity shift. The most powerful changes happen when you begin observing yourself as someone who already has what you desire. Not trying to become that person, but recognizing that you already are that person, and your external reality is just catching up. These aren't rules you have to follow perfectly. They're natural patterns that emerge when you begin working consciously with the observer effect. Here's how to integrate this into your daily life for maximum impact. Morning practice. Before checking your phone or engaging with the day, spend 5 to 10 minutes observing your upcoming day from the frequency of your highest timeline. Feel into the version of you who moves through the day with presence, confidence, and joy. Midday reset. When you notice yourself caught in reactive patterns, take 3 breaths and ask, how would I observe this situation if I were completely at peace? Then shift your observation to match that frequency. Evening integration. Before sleep, review your day not from judgment about what went wrong, but from appreciation for what went right and excitement for what's becoming possible. The 24-hour rule. For any challenging situation, commit to observing it through the lens of possibility for 24 hours before taking action. You'll be amazed how often solutions appear naturally when you're not forcing them. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not at the mercy of external conditions. You are a conscious participant in the quantum field that's constantly creating reality. The moment you shift from unconscious reaction to conscious observation, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you become more skillful at dancing with the intelligence that flows through all things. Your reality is not happening to you, it's happening through you. One conscious observation at a time. Start today. Start with the next thought you think, the next emotion you feel, the next situation you encounter. Ask yourself, how am I observing this? What frequency am I bringing to this moment? What would it feel like to witness this from love instead of fear, from possibility instead of limitation? Your consciousness is the most powerful creative force you have access to. When you learn to wield it skillfully, life becomes an extraordinary adventure of conscious creation. The field is waiting for your next observation. What reality will you choose to collapse into form? Remember, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you consistently observe with emotional certainty. Observe wisely, observe consciously, observe with love, and watch your world transform accordingly.